Do a live feed this afternoon, Sunday afternoon. It's wet and cold here this evening, and I just did not feel like getting a video ready today. Let me get my iPad over here going, get it pulled up, volume down. Let's see here. Get it, there we go. It usually takes a second or two for everybody to start popping up. Lots of people with glasses where I can see. There we go. Everybody's showing up now. What's going on? Not a whole lot this afternoon. I'm trying to recuperate from this weekend. Busy weekend coming on here. Started Friday. Well, of course, did a saw class this weekend and started out. One of the husband and wife actually got here from 6 Miles, South Carolina. They came in Thursday night, and I was down there doing, setting up and finishing up, doing some fine tuning stuff, things like that, kind of wrapping things up for getting ready for the class. And he had texted me when they were coming in. I knew they were coming in because he wanted to spend a day in the woods with us Friday, which is I do that. So he wanted to know if he could bring his saw by, and I told him, yeah, come on, because I was down there in the shop. So they come by. They ended up staying here until it's about 10 o'clock Thursday night. Had a good time visiting with them, and then of course he came to the woods Friday morning and hung out till, well, he was there till just after lunch and then left. And then so the saw class stuff is a lot that goes on, a lot. I mean, so I had two guys that came down from Chicago, and they got here about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And the way I do it is that once everybody gets here on Friday afternoon, I go ahead and get everybody to come on out here, and we go ahead and get started. So once they got situated, I told them, I texted everybody, I told her to be here anywhere between 5 and 5:30, and we'd get rolling. And that's what we did. Everybody showed up, and we ran saws till it was a little right around dark or so. We ran, and what I do is when we do that, it gives me an idea to just kind of watch them. Watch them run, watch their body language, and see how they run a saw, and see how their saw is running, if it's sharp or not, or anything like that. And so did that, and then once it gets dark, then we come on in and get rolling. And we did. It was about 9, I think, Friday night when they left. We go ahead and start into the saws and all that. It's a good time, real good time. And then Saturday morning, then I have everybody come back out at 8 in the morning, and we just blast off, run from about 8. We in the classroom in my shop for a couple hours or so, kind of going over everything, and then we go outside and we run saws the rest of the day. I mean, I looked when I got down there at my shop this morning, throwing things away, the garbage, kind of cleaning up everything. There was a whole gallon empty premix can that somebody had. It was empty, and then there was another quart premix that was empty also too, and I threw them away. And I looked at my gas can, and I had burnt a good half a tank in my Husqvarna combi can that I've got out of it. And I walked out there where we had been sawing at, and all the guys that were here yesterday, was actually pretty cool, because once we got done, it was raining about the last hour that we ran outside. We were in the rain, and when we got done, they said, y'all, do you want us to help you clean up? And I said, no. I said, I'll get it this week. And they said, well, we got a whole bunch of people here. Let's get it if you want to get it. I said, all right, let's go. So, man, about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, I think there were 6 of us working on it. And we knocked it out, had it all cleaned up all the cookies and everything. I walked out there this morning. Dang, I'm going to have to move to a different location because the sawdust out there is about that deep now on the grass and everything out there. But so I got everything set up. We'll hammer it again. Got another class coming up this weekend, so a lot of fun. Like doing it. Had guys from Chicago, South Carolina, 6 Mile, South Carolina, and then had a guy from down in South Louisiana, Thibodaux, down there. He came up as UPS driver. Had a lot of fun with him. His name was Darwin, and then Thomas Johnson. He's a logger over in DeRidder, Louisiana. He had hit me up earlier in the week and want to know if he could just come over here and hang out sometime during the while the saw class is going on. I told him, I said, yeah, man, come on if you want to come on. So he got here yesterday about lunchtime, and when he showed up, I told him we were actually eating lunch down there in my shop. I told him when we walked outside, whatever he wanted to film. And I glanced over my shoulder 2 or 3 different times. So he should have quite a bit of footage from the saw class. I didn't film a lot because I filmed some, but not a lot, because I'm focused on these guys and watching them run saws and making sure that nothing happens, that they do anything that would not be good or anything like that. So I kind of keep up with them. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, I've seen several comments popping up about the 100,000. It's getting close. It should happen this week here. Let's see. Lots of stuff. I see somebody from Georgia and BC. Let's see. Lots of people here already. Got a little over 100 here right now. Y'all click that thumbs up. Give me that big thumbs up. We're gonna hit. There's somebody from Oregon just popped up right there. It's always amazes me the people that watch the videos and where everybody are located at, and it's all around the world, in the different areas. So the reach that everything has. But kind of finish up, once we got done with talking about the saw class, once we got done with cleaning up, then we went back in the shop while it was raining and went back over, just kind of recapping the day and all that. And then we loaded up, everybody went back to hotels and all that stuff, got cleaned up. And then we met in town in downtown Columbus, and we went to Huck's and ate at Huck's. That's kind of a treat that I've done after the saw classes are over with. We go eat at Huck's, and we ate there. And then Thomas ended up coming back here this morning. He got back. There's Mr. Glenn. Glenn was in the saw class. They're heading back to. He's the one from South Carolina that was here. Thomas ended up coming back to the house this morning he got here it was before 9 when he got back here, and we hung out down there at my shop. So he's actually driving back right now, all the way back to DeRidder, and I looked at it on the map, and it's like 430-mile drive that he's got to go back to get to his place there. So that was pretty big for him to make the trek over here to hang out and do that. Let's see. Alabama, Missouri, North Alabama, Italy, Kentucky, Virginia, South Central Kentucky, Tupelo, Brian Perry from Tupelo, Lee Zeters. I think that's how you say is Zeters, I believe. They're from over in Texas over there. They all time. Thomas just commented, he said, I got 5 hours to go. I know how that is, man. Running the road, burning the road up, and rolling there, going different places like that. So anywho, I come in here and just kind of drained a little bit. You know what I mean? Because the to do the saw class is physical, not too bad, but it also mentally drains you pretty bad. So I come in here and I was kind of him hawing around about what I was going to do as far as trying to post something a day and all that. And I said I sent I sent old John Boy a text a while ago, and I said, "Hey, heads up, I'm fixing to set up and do a live feed. So this is what I'm doing for today for today's video." So let's see. Let me look at the thing here and see if there's anything else. There's somebody from Missouri right there. Stockbridge, Georgia. The Carolinas and Georgia, that area right through there was a lot of stuff. There's Clayton from Clinton, Michigan, I believe that's where it is. Clayton Covell. There's old Travis and David Smith. A lot of people in the southeast. Yeah, David said at least I had help to clean up. Man, I did. That was pretty big because, man, when you start cleaning up those cookies and they're all about, they're cut about that thick like that, and you start getting those things individually and you done cut off. There's no telling how many of them we cut off. There's somebody from Sweden right there that just showed up. I missed it right there on this one. I seen it when it popped up on the phone, and somebody from Albertville, Sweden, where Husqvarna's built. There's old Ryan Poteet right there. He's over there in the Las Vegas area. They pile up quick. I hope we get a few drying days here in a row, because what I need to do this week is I need to take the mower out there in the blower, and I need to blast those chips. I need to run over those saw chips with the lawnmower, and what it does is it kind of evens them out on the ground there. Because, man, I mean, it literally looks like snow out there now on the ground. Let's see here. Let's see. Taylor asked, "Have I ran the 500 steel since I put grease around the seal?" Taylor, I ran it a little bit. We ran it some Friday night, and we didn't run it much. I wanted those guys to all run it to see how it felt to them. And so we probably didn't even burn a half a tank through that saw. The saw that I mainly ran this weekend was a 550. And they all ran it. My 550 got ran a lot. It probably altogether had close to 3 tanks of gas running through it this weekend. I did run the steel 362. I cut some pieces off with it, and I let them run my 362. I've got the chain on that 362 set pretty aggressive right now. The chain that's on it, it will start off as a round file chain, and then I converted it over to a square ground chain, and then I swapped it back to a round file chain. And in doing that, and then I worked on the rakers there too, and I've got the rakers down to about 30 thousandths of a gap between the top plate and the rakers. So the chain on that 362 is a 20-inch bar, and it is pretty aggressive. It's not where you can't run it or anything. And then I put the bark box on that saw, and that darn 362, when I put the bark box on it, it completely changed the the dynamics of that saw a lot. I took the saw Thursday night, and I hadn't recalibrated it since I'd put the bark box on it, and I thought about it. So I took it outside and I cranked it and went through a calibration process on it to let it do that. And that 362 is a beast. I mean, that thing will get with the program right there. So run it some yesterday, and also bark box. Mark says bark box. A lot of people want to know what the bark box is. Bark box is a on your two-piece mufflers. There's a company called West Coast Saw over out west in the Pacific Northwest up there that you can buy the outside cover of the muffler, and it's a stainless steel TIG welded cover that's got porting in it on it where it breathes better, and it just allows the saw to to work better. and it makes the saw sound a lot different with the bark box. I mean, you can have on Thomas's video, he just talked about how it sounded. In Thomas's video, he was filming when we were carving the chairs, so there were 4 other saws running plus me running. I started off running the 550, and then I swapped over to the 362 still with the bark box on it. And there's no doubt, you know, when that saw is cranked and running. I couldn't really tell a difference when I reset it, but I did go ahead and reset it. I'm not that crazy about the 261 at all, and I'll let that saw go later on after I film some more videos with it. I will get rid of that saw. I'm not that crazy about it. I mean, it's an okay saw, but I just don't like the way the 261 feels and all that. It just, I'm not that crazy about it. But and then the 362, I liked it a little bit better, but I wasn't that crazy about it. So my game plan was to keep the 500 and then get rid of the 362 and the 261. But like I said, when I changed the muffler out on that thing, it changed that saw so much. It's hard to explain what it did to that saw, but it was a very noticeable difference. And then once I recalibrated it, I don't know that I could tell really any difference than that right there, but it'll pull that aggressive chain that I've got on it, man. I mean, it'll pull it big time. And also I do have let's see here, I do have one brand new 562 sold that one of the guys that's coming to the saw class is coming weekend. Let's see, he's bought a brand new 562 from over there at Northport Power Equipment, and I've got to go over there and pick it up this week for him, and I'll have it here. So we'll have a brand new 562 running. Let's see, Chris says I didn't reset my 462 after I put the straight shot muffler on it, but I could feel the improvement after about the 4th or 5th cut. I think it kind of adjusts on its own for the most part, to where it kind of will reset it. And that's the purpose of the M-Tronics or the Auto Tune. It's supposed to do it on its own. I think they've got it set like that to where you can go ahead and make it do it if you want to. Kenneth asked, how do you recalibrate the 362? All right, so any of the M-Tronics saws, the steels, the way you do it is you lock the throttle down on it, all the way down, like it's in the choke position, like you're going to crank it cold. You lock it all the way down with it up, with the chain brake locked on it all the way down. You crank the saw, and just let it set running like that on that, and don't touch the throttle or anything. Set the saw down, let it run with the chain brake locked with it all the way down for between 30 and 60 seconds. When it crosses that 30-second mark, set your stopwatch. Anytime between that 30 and 60 seconds, pick the saw up, release the chain brake, and hold it wide open. Throttle all the way down, wide open. And what it'll do is it don't run wide open. It runs at a stutter, a little bit of a stutter. And you'll hear the saw as it's adjusting the carburetor kind of up and down. It takes about 15 seconds. And once it goes through that process of working that carburetor on that saw, in that 15 seconds or so, all of a sudden the saw just opens up to wide open, just at the snap. While you're sitting there holding it wide open, it's doing all this stuff, and then it clicks over and it goes to wide open. When it goes to wide open, it's done. It's ready to rock and roll. So if you don't do it right between that 30 and 60 seconds, just cut it off, start over, get it over 30 seconds, pick it up, release the brake, hold it wide open, you'll hear it, and then it'll go. The Husqvarna is a little bit different. You just crank it up and just run it and stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Gregor Sevacar. I think that's how you say his name. I am holding this question right here because I want to answer it. He says, do you have any information about the new Husky 90cc saw that is coming out later this year? Gregor, and I'll say this to anybody, y'all be saving up your money for that one, because that one's going to be a humdinger when it comes out. Let me tell you what it's going to be. Just trust me on that. And that's all that I can on that right there. Let's see. That's correct, Chris. That the 3, I think it's the 3.0 version, which is the newest version. That's you are correct. That's the way that you do it on the 3.0 version right there. David asked, did I get my 500i to open up yet? I can't tell on that saw. That saw kind of baffles me a little bit. I like the saw. I like the way it runs and everything, but I can't really tell on that one what it is or what it is not doing. Let's see. Christina asked, will there be a residential 4-stroke saw? You know, I think about 5 or 6 years ago when they were trying to clean up the 2-stroke stuff and do something about the emissions on that stuff. I think there was some talk on some 4-stroke stuff. I think there was actually some 4-stroke weed eaters built, but I don't think that. I think some of the manufacturers thought that it might go in that direction as a 4-stroke, but I don't think it ever made. I think they had too many problems with it to go that route. But since then they have figured out how to clean these 2-strokes up. And what's so crazy is about the 2-stroke stuff is they've cleaned them up, and they're lightening them up with different materials and stuff like that, and they're putting an insane amount of power to those saws. I mean, what some of these saws are doing power wise is just freaking mind-boggling, man. I mean, if you haven't had a chance to run, and that's to run some of the new stuff, and that's the cool thing about the saw class coming here, is I've got an array of saws that everybody can run, and I don't mind them running. And then everybody else has saws here too that bring them, some old, some new saws, and different style saws and different manufacturers. And just seeing the difference between them is pretty crazy. But the the Intronic stuff and the auto tune stuff, you know, when they first come out with that stuff, like the auto tune stuff, Husqvarna was the first one, and a lot of people don't know this, but the M-Tronics is a spin-off of the auto tune stuff. What they did was is they bought that to speed up the process to help them get manufacturing quicker on that curve right there. And both of them had some problems with it very early on, like you know, anybody does with anything new that they come out with. But that stuff, the 562's been out for a long time now. And since then, through those years, they've improved them to where they're at now. And those saws just run so good. I mean, every time I would hand that 550 into one of the guys' hands this past weekend, and they would run it, you know, they would turn around and comment on it, that just how hard that saw runs, and what it peaks out at, because I think that saw's turning like 15,500 RPMs or something like that. I mean, it's just insane the power that little bitty 50cc saw's got. And then if somebody offered some kind of muffler mod for that thing that you could buy for it, like for the 550 or the 572 or something like that, man, and you was to put a modded muffler on it, there's no telling what that little saw would do then on it, where it would breathe a little bit better. But for some reason, you see more of the stuff for the steels than you do for the Husqvarnas. They, I don't know if it's because it's a simpler muffler design in the Husqvarna, because the Husqvarna is a kind of a more crazy design for on the muffler than what the steel is. The steel's got a square front on it, and it's obviously surely easier to design something else to fit right there compared to like the Husqvarna. But I wish, here in the United States, we do things a little bit different. We like to personalize our stuff. And of course, Husqvarna is built in Sweden, and then you've got steel built in Germany. Over here, we like hot rod cars. It's got big motors in them with big cams that load. We like jacked up four-wheel drive trucks with big tires on them and that make a lot of noise. We like to take our four-wheelers, our ATVs, and our side-by-sides, and we like to jack them up, put different exhaust on them, and get them all fixed up and fine-tune them to each person's liking. And we like to do that with chainsaws too. I would love to see like Husqvarna, Steel, or anybody like that offer like bolt-on mod stuff. I mean, like they're already building the saws, okay? It wouldn't take nothing for them to develop. They're all two-piece mufflers, except for like the 261. It's a single muffler, but it would take absolutely no effort for them to design and develop, a muffler cover, a different modded muffler cover that you could just unbolt the old one and Napa brand, and bolt the new one back on, that anybody could do with a Torx wrench in 5 minutes. You've changed the saw. They could develop it and set it up to manufacture it. And once they started manufacturing it, they wouldn't have any money in the manufacturing process. And I can guarantee you, if they made that stuff available in the United States, you could put it on there and just roll with it. They could still do it and get around with the EPA stuff, because see, that's the thing with the BART box. They're building them and they're able to work around it, and they're still putting the screens in them. Now, who's to say that once you get it, that you just take your screwdriver or a cutoff wheel or something and take the screen out of it, and just get the screen out of the thing to where to breathe and continue on the way it's supposed to, and just changes the way the saw sounds. And so that would be a cool twist on things. But even if the manufacturer didn't do it, it would be really cool to see the stuff that you can buy for the steel stuff, be able to buy it so simply for the Husqvarna stuff too. I would love that, where you could just pick it up and bolt it on and keep right on going like that. Let's see. Look through the comments here. Just yes. Still Working made a comment just a little bit ago, a few minutes ago. He says Husky and Steel are both awesome equipment companies. Can't go wrong with either. He loves both. Can't really choose between one or the other. LOL. He's right. And here's what's so cool about that deal is you got two top companies that build great equipment on both sides, both of them, and they're going head to head on this stuff. And you got one over here and one over here, and they're both trying to constantly outdo the other one. They're wanting to cut wood, but they're trying to build a better mousetrap all the time. You realize who that pays off for? It pays off for us, the end consumer, the competition there. And man, because they're building just insane equipment for us to run and operate and use. And I just sat back, I crossed my arms, and I grin. I grin. I wish other companies were like that, to build, just trying to outdo one another at the level that Husqvarna and Steel are trying to do. The engineering and the stuff that goes into these saws is absolutely insane. Because if you go back, if you were to go back all the way back to where one of these saws is first thought of on a piece of paper to be birthed, to be brought to market, it's probably 6+ years, 5-6+ years before it ever comes to market. And it takes that long to make that stuff. I guarantee you it's at least that long. So once it finally gets to the dealers, say over here in the United States, there has been so much testing, so much stuff go on, and before we finally get our hands on it, let's see. Let's see. Looking at that, just trying to catch up. Let's see. Living the American Dream in the Heartland wants to know if I'll ever get a Husky set, not a Husky, but a Echo 7310, and run it with the Steel 462 and the 572. I'd love to do that. I would love to do that. The 7310, for those of y'all who don't know, is the newest Echo that they come out with. It's actually supposed to be built to compete with the 462 and the 572 Husqvarna. The saw cost $800 is what the saw retails for, and it's nothing. It does not have an electronic carburetor on it. They were able to pass the emissions with that saw, was still putting a high and low speed and an idle screw type carburetor, the old style carburetor on it. And they changed the airflow on that saw too, and put a completely different air filtration system on it. And they've got it to where the air running through it is very comparable to like the air injection on the Husqvarnas is. But The 462, I really don't have a hankering to buy one of them because I've run one of those a lot in the past, and I know what those saws are about. So there's really no need in me pursuing going out and trying to get one just to run, because I want to kind of keep it where I would like to. I wouldn't mind running one or trying one and everything like that, but the two predominant companies in the United States is, of course, Steel and Husqvarna, or Husqvarna and Steel, like that. Let's see. Yeah, there is one thing about it. It's still working right here. Made a point right there. The Huskies seem to be a cleaner operating saw as well. There's one thing about it: the Steels do burn more gas than the Husqvarnas do. There's no doubt about that. Mitchell asked, when will the Husqvarna 90cc class saw come out this year? Later on, late summer, about August, something like that. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that because they may have a delay or anything like that. It may happen, and So one cool fact: there's Mr. Bruce. He's been in my saw class before, back in October last year. I lost my train of thought. Oh, let's see here. I'm looking. The 372, fact about them, they're going to continue building them. They figured out how to clean those saws up to where they're a little bit cleaner burning and stuff like that. And so you'll still be able to continue to buy a 372 for those y'all who are just completely against the auto tune stuff. You'll still be able to get it. Somebody asked, I think it was Todd. Yeah. Todd asked, what's the oldest saw I have ever ran? That's either going to be, I'm not really sure. That's either going to be a really old Steel or I've ran some old McCulloughs before in the past, and I mean, those are, all the old saws are very cool. The McCulloughs, the old Home Lights, the old Steels, old Husqvarnas and everything. But it's fine to kind of do a little demonstration with them to run them. But I don't care to run them, and here's why. Man, the vibration coming off those things will just, they'll eat you up. I mean, it's just nuts, the vibration that comes off of those things. That, let's see, I'm looking through right here. So Byron, I've seen Byron on here, Byron Glover. There he is right there. Byron, what's it looking like for the Sunbelt Ag Expo this year, man? Is it kind of in the works, or are they just going to kind of sit back and wait and see? Or kind of what's the deal on that, man? Because I sure hope they have that thing this year, man. I was counting on that dude last year to come back down there. Me and Jill be back down there. And I sure hope they have it. I've run some old Sachs Domars. I've run several of them. We had an old preacher that used to work for us, used to cut for us back in the mid 80s, and I ran several of his saws. He had a bunch of them he ran. And man, there was some good saws too. Those were some really good saws. And you go back and you think about all the saws that used to be built, different manufacturers that have all been absorbed by other companies and everything like that. But I hope that they have because man, this past year we had big plans for down there. We were actually going to stay in a camper down there on the show property there. That's where we're going to stay. I was going to go down there a day early. I said, there's Byron, and just responded. He said Sunbelt is still on. Matter of fact, they're holding a huge car show and swap this weekend. Hopefully it does, man. I hope it not. I hope it continues on, because that show there was probably my favorite show. But I'm gonna go down. Jill and I, well, if it continues that, we'll go down there a day early, and where I can kind of have some time to kind of before the show opens, where I can really walk around and check things out. Because once it opens, I'll be kind of confined to the booth there where Jill and I would be, and because there was so many people that come through that show there. Johnsrid ran them. My buddy John Boy that's on here, that's watching right now, he's got a Johnsrid. They're good running saws too. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Husqvarna owns Johnsrid too, I believe. Yep. Let's see. Old Poland's and Home Lights, boy. They built a lot of them things. Royce asked a good question right there. He asked, have I ever thought about getting the steel knockoff saws? No, I hadn't even considered that. I really don't want to get any of those things like that, and I don't even really want to mess with them. I know you can buy them a lot cheaper, but I don't really want to mess with them things at all. I might run one if somebody was to bring one over here and mess with it a little bit and do that. Let's see here. Let me read this comment right here from Trevor Cox. He says, "Hey Tim, I'm looking into getting a Husky saw, looking at the 555 2020 or the 550 XP Mark II. Which one do you recommend for doing tree work around a farm with good sized trees?" All right, so that's a good question. The 555 against the 550 XP Mark II. All right. So here's the thing with Husqvarna. I'm not going to look at the comments where I can get everything right. So Husqvarna has an XP series of saws, and then they have a non-XP variant of saws. The only difference between the XP version and the non-XP version, they're virtually the same saw, same crankcase, same CC saw. And I'm going to tell you all the numbers of which one is which here in just a second, so just bear with me. I'm just telling you the differences. The differences between the saws are this right here. The non-XP variant is ported a little bit differently. It don't turn as many RPMs, and it has a tad less horsepower. And it's a little bit cheaper than the XP variant saw is. So the XP variant saw is made and designed to run all day, every day, is what that saw is designed to do. So here's your numbers between the XP and non-XP. You've got a 572. That is an XP saw. The non-XP variant of the 572 is a 565. They're both the same CC saws. I've run a 565. You can tell a little bit of difference between them, and there's a little bit of price difference. So that's your 572, 565, XP, non-XP. On your 562, your 60cc size saw, your 562 is the XP. Your 555 is the non-XP variant of the 562. Same difference, same case, poured a little bit different, don't turn as many RPMs, has a little less horsepower, a little less cost in the price. So you got 572, 565, 562, 555. All right, let's drop to the 550 XP Mark II. 550 XP Mark II is your XP saw. The non-XP variant of that saw is a 545, is what it is. Same deal, same crankcase, same CCs, they're both 50cc saws. The 545 is ported a little bit different, don't have quite as much horsepower, don't turn quite as many RPMs. There's about a $45 or $50, maybe $60 price difference between those two saws. And then the new 90cc class, you'll have the XP, and they're going to make a non-XP variant of that saw also. So me personally, me being me, you have both saws. They're both great saws. You know, the XP, non-XP variant. I'm always going to I'm always going to go for the XP saw. It's what I'm going to buy. If I'm going to spend my money to buy a new saw, I'm going to go for the XP saw is what I'm going to go for. And that's just because it's me. That's just it. See there, David. Let's see. Just looking through here. Axeman 101 says service is everything when you consider a saw. He is very, very right about that. Let's see. So, as with anything, you need to buy what you can get service for. Sometimes you may not have a steel dealer in your area. Sometimes you may not have a Husqvarna dealer in your area. So you've got to buy what you can get service for. Goats, Firewood, and Farms asked what I think about the 346 XP. All right, so the 346 XP was the saw before the 550 XP. Is what that saw was. The 346 was an absolute screaming demon too. They were some bad little saws. And so then they phased them out when they started making the 550s. Is when they did them. Let's see, there's Drexel Smith from Kentucky. Let's see, James Wilson, he's from Northern Ireland. Price difference between the 572 over the 500i over here is $130 US. It's a lot more than that over here there, James. The 500, pretty much most all your dealers are going to be selling it for $1,400. There are some dealers where you can find it a little less than that. The 572 is going to be $1,000 is what that saw is going to be. Let's see here. Well, let's see. Let's see. I'm looking through the comments. No, there's not going to be a lot of difference between the 46 and the 50cc. Let's see. Those are some good saws. They virtually cost nothing to rebuild too. The 346s, they're very inexpensive to rebuild them if you have to rebuild them. Let's see. Just looking. I see Dirty South. I don't know if we got much rain over our way. I don't think it rained a lot. It started raining yesterday afternoon, probably about 1:30 or so, just a light spitting rain, and we never checked up. We kept rolling and running outside, and it just kind of kept steady raining, and we never let up. It got cold though. I was the wind was blowing pretty good, and we just kept on going. And when I come in the house and got ready to go meet them at Huck's, I left here. We were gonna meet at 6. I left here, I think before 5:30, and I got on up there to where I could get us on the list to get in to Huck's there. And I looked at my temperature on my truck, and it was showing 39 degrees. I knew it was cold out there, but I didn't realize it was quite that cold because it was so wet. It was raining, wind was blowing like crazy. My face was wind burnt, big time from the wind blowing on it right there. And so that was a deal on that. Let's see. It's the amateur logger. I tell you what, he says, I'd say buy the 572 and get it ported. You'll have a more powerful saw than the 500i. The thing those saws are very, very close together. The 500, even though the 500 is a 79cc saw and the 572 is a 71cc saw, those saws are very, very close together, other than a little bit of weight difference between them. But the thing that worries me, there's two things that worry me about the 500 is number one, the weight of it. Where did they take over a pound of weight from that saw to get it as light as they did? And then the filtration on it. I've had several guys that run steels all the time. They say all their steels do that too. The ones that they have lets fines get in there, but they said they've never blowed a saw up or anything like that. Never had any trouble like that. And matter of fact, one of them said, he said, I've never blowed a saw up or had a saw that quit running because it died. He said, I usually kill my saws prematurely by running over them with something. So that's kind of my luck right there. I would probably end up running over one of them before it actually died of natural causes, or anything like that. But so I don't know what the longevity of the 500s are going to be, because the saw runs hard. The throttle response on it. That one of the guys that I put that saw in his hands, he had never touched one, and I handed it to him, and when he punched the throttle on it, I seen it when it jumped in his hands, and I could tell by the look on his face that he was not expecting the way that thing jumped in his hands, because they're crazy, the response that they got on them. I mean, they're tough. Let's see. Yep. Bruce says the 572 has more robust crank and bearings. It does. And it's definitely got better air filtration in it. There is no doubt about that. I think on the 362, I ran it a good bit this weekend. I actually, when we were kind of recapping at the end of the class yesterday, when it was starting to rain, we came back in my shop and we were kind of recapping, going over things. So I picked the 362 up and I set it on my table and jerked get the zigzag with the chicane is what you get there, Todd. Get it. But I pulled a cover off of it and looked at the air filter, and it looked pretty good just visually looking at it, and I thought it's pretty good. So I just pulled the air filter off of it, and they've got the 362 set up. Is the way the filtration on it works is it's a little bit different, but I thought it was pretty clean, and I took the I took the filter and I started banging it on the table to see what would come out of it while all the guys were sitting there watching. And I was kind of a little bit surprised about how much stuff came out of that filter. It didn't have any big chunks in it, but it was just tons and tons of fines that were embedded in that filter. There was nothing on the inside, like on the throttle body or the port going in the carburetor. There was nothing there, which is a good thing. So the biggest thing about chainsaws is, whether it's, no matter what brand it is, whether it's Sachs, Domar, John's Red, Echo, Steel, Husqvarna, make sure you keep your air filters knocked out. Make sure you keep those things knocked out, because if they stop up enough, the chances of it finally sucking something, getting bypassed on the filter or around the filter or something, the chances of that increases a lot, and then it just affects the performance of the saw. Just mind-boggling. Now, you don't, on the auto-tune stuff and the M-Tronic stuff, as the filter gets restricted, you don't notice a power loss on the saws like you do on the old style carbureted saws, because what happens is the saw is starting to get restricted on the air filter and it's not drawing as much air through it, the carburetor on it starts adjusting and compensating for that air, that restriction of air, so it keeps running good. So the saw may be running really, really good, and the filter may be bad restricted, and you not even realize it. Whereas, like on an old style saw with a normal old conventional carburetor on it, as the air filter starts getting restricted on it, it's going to start running. It's not going to run normal or like what it's supposed to. Because what got me was when I was in at Biltmore Estate up there in North Carolina, when Husqvarna was doing a release of the 500 series saw, the 572 and the 550, and those guys right there in the 525, they took a saw and they duct taped the air filter up on it, and then they took a screwdriver and they punched about 2 holes through the duct tape on that saw and cranked it, and it ran. The darn saw, and so it only had like 2 screwdriver holes through the duct tape, but that son of a gun still cranked and freaking ran. It adjusted itself enough to where the darn thing would run like that, and that really, really surprised me on that. So let me so Trevor wants to know what's the difference between the X-Cut and their normal chain. The X-Cut is a chain that Husqvarna builds themselves. Their normal chain is not built by them. But the X-Cut, if it's got X-Cut or if it's got X-Force on it for the bars, Husqvarna builds those themselves. They actually built a new factory that all it does is make chains. And so let's go down through here. Thomas said, he said, I sure was cold. I thought I was going to lose a toe. It was so cold. It was cold yesterday, and had I not been running around working a saw a little bit and helping, I probably would have got a lot more colder than I did. Let's see. Looking through here. Let's see. William says he learned a lot from my videos about saws. I bought a 550 XP Mark II, but it didn't have a chain catcher on it. William, it should have had an aluminum piece down there. When you take the side cover off, there should be a aluminum spur that sticks out, and that should be your chain catcher. If you don't have one there, go back to your dealer and get one from them. They ain't but just a few bucks. You really need to put a chain catcher on the saw, because if the chain flies off, that's the only thing that's going to stop that chain from wrapping up under and hitting back there where the tank is. And if the chain hits that tank enough, it's finally going to punch a hole in that tank, and then you're going to have to put a new carcass on that saw. Is what you're going to do. Favorite chain to run? I don't know. The X-Cut Husqvarna is the cuttingest chain out of the box I have ever put on a chainsaw. That stuff is wicked what it will do as far as cutting wise. It's hard to beat it. The Steel RS is good chain, but in my opinion, it don't cut like the X-Cut does out of the box. Me personally, preference wise, what do I like? I like the X-Cut stuff. The RS stuff with steel, I don't like it as much. It cuts good once I finally figured out how to make it cut. I like the Oregon stuff too, man. The LGX, the ELX. I hadn't run none of the ELX. The ELX is the newest version of the LGX chain, but the Oregon stuff is some good stuff. I like it. I like the price of it, and it's not going to cut. The Oregon stuff is not going to cut out of the box like the X-Cut Husqvarna does. But I'll say this: the Husqvarna X-Cut stuff better cut good out of the box, because you're going to pay more for it. You're going to pay a premium for that chain. But it's some good stuff. The X-Cut and the Oregon both file really good. I like the way that they file. I predominantly run, I think, on all of my Husky stuff, everything that's on them right now is all Oregon on it. I can make an Oregon chain hum. I mean, I know exactly what to do. Still working. He said Steel RS chain seems to be chattery. In my opinion, it is bad chattery. Dadgummit is chattery. It takes a little bit. It took me a while to figure out how to get that chattery out of that chain, man. Carlton is another good chain. Bruce asked about that. I have a special Carlton chain coming to me that I thought I was going to get Friday that is being sent to me, that a old golly, there's a guy up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I think he's a very old guy. He's like a retired nuclear physicist or something like that, and he just loves to sharpen chains. He loves to sharpen chains. So I happen to have a contact, and my contact got him to fix me up a Carlton chain, and he hand hones them chains. And so I'm looking forward to getting that chain and looking at it to see what he did to it. I've actually seen a video clip. I have a video clip of him actually hand honing one out, and but the X-Cut chain is not choppy unless you take the rakers down too far. And again, it's the cuttingest chain you'll ever pull out of the box and put on a saw. The Oregon stuff is good out of the box, but you can make it a lot better out of the box. But I like the temper on it. I like the way it files. I really like the way it feels. I like the way it pulls on the saws, and it's some good stuff. I also like Oregon too, because if you want to start off with a square ground chain, Oregon actually offers a square ground chain that you can buy. I'm not sure where he's at, Terry. He's somewhere around the Knoxville area is where he's at. And I don't even know his name. I just happened to have one of the guys that came to one of my saw classes back last year. Um, he he's up there in the area, and he ran across him, and he got a hold of me a couple of weeks ago, and he said, hey, he said, I want to send you one of these chains. He said, he asked me what length I wanted, and I told him to send me an 84 drive length. So he had him fix me one up, and did that. Uh, let's see, Mike asked, did you guys already talk about square file compared to traditional file? We'll get into that right quick here, Mike. Listen up here. The difference between the square file and the round file chain. The square file chain is your cutness chain that you can run. It's a smooth chain. It cuts really good, and it's going to outcut the round file chain right there when it's right. And the problem with the square file stuff is if you hand file it, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm hand filing it, and I've done it a good bit. I've actually taken some round file stuff and turned it into square and done that. And it's pretty difficult to do that, but it's doable to do it. The time that it takes to sharpen that chain, I can probably sharpen, this is no joke, I could probably hand file, if we were filing 20-inch chains, full house chains, I could probably file at least three round file chains to one square file chains. And the reason being is you got to be perfect on the square file stuff. You have got to line your points up perfectly underneath that tooth. There is no room for error, and you've got to have that chain anchored down like crazy, because you don't want that chain, the tooth, to move any at all. So if you anchor it down, then every tooth that you do, you have to unanchor it and then advance it and re-anchor it back up. So it takes a lot longer to file it. And then here's the other drawback on the square ground stuff, is it don't like anything dirty. Because the way that you cut the underside of that 90 out of that tooth there, if you run in some dirty wood, or you hit the dirt, or you hit something with that saw, it's going to take them points. It's going to mess those points up. I ran some on a 362 with Mr. Larry back a couple of weeks ago when we were doing some cutting, and I could actually feel it. We were in that river bottom where it floods down there, sand, grit everywhere all over those trees. I could actually feel that chain as I was cutting, it kind of giving out on me a little bit. And so if you don't know how to show enough hand file it really, really good freehanding it, if you're out in the woods, in the field sawing, you need to have multiple chains with you, so that when you dull one out, you can take one off and put one back on to keep on going. Whereas like with the round file stuff, it's very easy to take it, file it real quick, so you speed it up. And the round file stuff it does pretty good. It does better in the dirty wood than the square file stuff. But you can freehand it, but there's a company called ATOP, A-T-O-P, that makes a jig that you can set on your chain, on your ball and chain, but you still got to anchor your chain down like crazy. It's got to be tight. It's got, because you don't want that tooth to move none when you start to file it. And that ATOP, it sets your double bevel file at the correct angle that you need to be in to go through that chain, to make your stroke through that chain. And I've used the A-top a good bit to kind of set me up on it, but it's not. I think now I'm actually doing it without the A-top, and so I'd rather just freehand it without the A-top on there now, because I can put a little bit different. I need the A-top is good. It helps you kind of get it really close, pretty nice, but I need to get just a little bit more on it without the A-top on there. Let's see. Terry, let me read Terry's question here. He says, please explain to me Oregon hardwood chain. I remember growing up in the woods with Grandpa. He kept a spool of chain to make our own and always had Oregon hardwood chain. You know, just sharpen it. Just put the angle on it. Just sharpen it 25 degrees and just cut everything with 25 degrees on it. So the other part about the square ground stuff is, if you were going to really be running the heck out of it, the best way to sharpen it would be get a Symington grinder and grind it with it. But the problem is that Symington grinder and those grinders that'll do square ground chain, those run about $1,300 a piece. And then you're also limited to doing it, at your shop there or wherever you're at right there. So you would have to, when you went to the woods to go do some cutting, you would have your saw, your gas and oil, and then you would need the chain that was on the saw and about 2 more chains with you to make it through a day, just in case you hit something or anything. Because if you run or you cut anything out there in the woods, you're eventually going to hit a nail from an old fence or something like that, and you're going to jack the chain up and mess it up. But a lot of guys out west, predominantly, they're going to run square ground chain for the most part. Most of them are, and they're running grinders on them, grinding them. There's some of them out there that hand file them and do it that way. But most of them, yeah. One Y Buzz, he just mentioned Steel Fan Susie on YouTube has good videos of freehand square filing chain. He does. I've watched his videos several times. He just don't speak any English. He has one where he had somebody help him do the wording on it. I forget what it's called now, where you can see it where he's as he's talking. And he had some. He broke down and did some really good videos to where real close-ups where you can see his angles really good. And he's a really good one to watch if you're wanting to watch and see how he does it, how he's stroking those chains and stuff. Yeah, you can run Oregon chains on steels and stuff. No, I wouldn't say it lasts longer. They're going to last about the same. It just depends on what you're cutting in. I do know this, the Steel RS, when I was running the square ground chain on the 362, and I was running round file chain on the 500 when I was cutting with Mr. Larry, cutting in that flooded river bottom. And I was really surprised at how well the RS chain held up as I cut, because I cut like 25 trees down that day. And the RS chain held up very, very well. I was really surprised. I was kind of expecting it 5 or 6 trees in to kind of start fatiguing out on me a little bit and knocking the edge off of it with cutting in that grit in the bark there. But it hung in there for me. I never had to touch it with a file through all those trees. And I put over 2 tanks of gas through that saw that day. And then I picked up the 362 and was running it, and I didn't even run a tank of gas through it. And I about killed that square ground chain on it, and pretty quick. But I think I think it's important for me, especially with me doing what I do on YouTube, to be able to do everything saw related, whether it's filing or or just the saws in general or the cutting techniques or anything like that. To be able to do round filing and do it well, and to be able to do square filing and do it well. And I look at the square filing as a challenge, and challenges, they drive me. That's what makes me want to go and makes me want to do is a challenge in front of me, and I eat those up. So that was the square ground stuff was worked well for me as far as the challenge that it presented me. And the first one that I filed like it, I actually did pretty dang good on it. I was very surprised on that. So anyhow, let's see. How long? I don't know. We've been on 75 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap this thing up and get her shut down. Let's see. Uh, Here. Let's see, Bruce. I'm gonna talk. Bruce Arney says he don't think anything beats the file guide I use to sharpen chains. That's an Oregon file guide. Oregon, their cutting systems are phenomenal, and they're sharpening. And that filing system that I use is the Oregon file. It costs about $9 for that thing, and you can't beat it. I mean, it is a great. They've been building that thing for 60 years, probably, maybe longer than that. I don't know. Oregon's been building stuff for a long time, but it's hard to beat that file, man. I can make those saws cut like a knife through hot butter, man. But I appreciate all y'all tuning in this evening, and like I said, I was too tired to get something out today. I was gonna pull the lazy way and do a live feed today, and y'all hanging out with me. I'm just gonna kind of chill here in my study. I love being in my study here and just sitting here, uh, just chilling. I close the door back there. I don't hear Jill saying anything. I lock it so she can't come in here. Keeps her out. So this is a Cotton Top 3 zone only right here, man. And so that's what I do. But y'all have a good Sunday. We're going to try to log tomorrow, I guess. It's probably going to be wet as heck tomorrow. But we'll catch y'all later. Later, taters.